Wet Wednesday morning story that you used a lot, Peter, that we're talking about there, it's very difficult to create a permanent sense of excitement or engagement. It's something you have to continuously work on, and by its nature, it's going to go up and down.
Yeah, but are you saying to people out here who are watching this morning that one of the things to watch out for is one of the things actually has happened, people have gone through that positive reinforcement and at least an understanding of the fact that people now are working harder, doing more for less, needs to be taken into account, because that's one of the big changes for them.
It needs to be taken into account, and I think that, if you were leading a business, you'd say you should have interventions maybe every 2 or 3 months, which is, in a way, they are getting people together, constantly communicating about the business and what's required in terms of the performance, because it won't happen on its own.
Let's not always assume that everybody's doing more for less.
Yeah.
In lots of change programs, people are doing more for more.
Yeah.
And if the structures are right and the reward programs are right, that they're very important because they will drive the changes.
Yeah, but I would have thought, and I know that in your case, Mick, you did start looking at reward in that, in terms of how you will reward people for taking on this new culture thing. Yeah. How did you decide what the rewards were going to be?
Well, I think the company started out saying we're going to start out, I think, fairly conservatively, because we won't pretend we are a fully fledged commercial animal. So they would have introduced bonus ranges from the top down based on market benchmarks, but not quite at where you'd be if you were still in an outside smaller commercial company. So I think what they did was they started with reward systems, and they developed the development over time. There was a key issue in the reward systems. They were transitioning. There's a key issue here, which is, you can say everything is very troubled and negative here, but the reality is you're a company with an awful lot of skills. You've got young companies out there who probably want to pick your best people.
Yes.
So not only are you losing business, you're vulnerable to losing your best people to smaller competitors. And if you lose your best people, they don't only bring themselves and their skills; they bring their knowledge of your operations.
Okay.
So the flexibility around reward systems was important, because in certain instances you might decide we're going to have to let some people go because they're going. In other instances, you say we just can't let Frank go. So you use your reward system to actually keep him. And I think it's a very important point in the whole issue as well, because while we might say there's a lot of negativity around the issue is you've got fantastic people that you need to leverage from to actually be successful.
And again, Nick, do you find in every change program that the best people who you invest a lot of money in, training them, skilling them, getting them involved, hyping them up, they are transformed themselves by virtue of the program. And then they stand up and say, oops, there's a big world out there.
That's right.
I'm off.
That's right.
And the organisations then left the poorer.
That's right. And it's the people you don't want to lose that you're in most danger of losing.
Okay, so if we pull this together, because we're coming to the end of our time, we pull this together and just looking at the main lessons, Mick, from this case study that you've just given us here. You lived through it. We were part of it at one stage ourselves, myself and Frank as well. But if you take the main lessons that are coming from that for people out there who are going through this program, what would you say they are? Just telling us straight the first 3 or 4 things.
I'd say for a large scale change program like this, first of all, it's not neat and symmetrical. It's actually very disruptive and difficult to implement by its nature. You need to be clear on and try to align what your strategy, your structures, your staff, your skills. You need to get everything pointing in the same direction. It's not just one thing, and I think where change programs go wrong is people think it's just one thing. It's not one thing. It's probably 5 or 6 key things that you need to get pointing in the same direction. And I would say, in order to make it work, leadership and management is absolutely crucial.
So you need the separate team to look after, very specific people looking after the change.
In terms of the design of the change,
yeah.
When it comes to implementing the change and sustaining the change, strong leadership and management is an absolute requirement. And it comes down to, what you reward and recognise, and what will you not tolerate?
Okay.
Because both give powerful messages.
Okay, so defining then what the behaviour is going to be, and rewarding people who get the behaviour, and in your case where people didn't live up to didn't make the cut, they simply didn't make the cut. So an element of ruthlessness as well?
Well, I think there is. I mean, people would have described it in those terms. The people who are running the business would have said it's the business we're in. We have no alternative.
Did it work?
It worked. It worked over a period of time. Now the thing is, this is a few years ago. This company has gone through a number of further restructuring since then. So there is a further lesson in it, Peter, is that it never does stop. Change is continuous. But over a period of time, the structures they put in place to mind the key customers, they actually won back revenues. The win back games. And what you discover is your product offering is probably stronger in certain instances than your competitors, so we're still developing.
I think that was actually one of the outputs from that was that while this was, you know, the first of the major big changes that actually was carried through there, it did introduce the whole notion of this is a culture of change in the organisation, so that things will never be the same.
Never be the same.
Okay, want to go, guys, because people are obviously going back to their day jobs at this stage and want to go back to meetings and stuff after 9 o'clock or so. Just to let you know a couple of things. One is that we've had a number of requests in for the team here, not just the guys here today, but the panel, to somehow, how can people engage with them individually in their own organisations? And some people have actually invited us out very kindly out to have breakfast with them on other mornings, and look, we thought that was not a bad idea actually. So if anybody wants to talk to us in relation to their own organisations, you know, we would gladly go out. I suppose we'll have a chat with you. If you send in, there are a number of people who come through on this, so we can't do it for everybody, and we can't be out every morning, of course, but we'll have a look at them. And if it makes sense to us, we'll go out and we'll actually do what we're doing here. We'll shoot the breeze with you over your own businesses, and obviously with a view ourselves to doing a bit of business with you. And if it makes sense, we can go ahead. If not, thanks for the rashers anyway. It was nice. We'll invest.
There have to be rashers.
Frank is really annoyed that we don't have the rashers here in the mornings. But anyway, the good breakfast will do us no harm. We'd be willing to do that with you in your organisations. A limited number, mind you. The alternative to that is that, and Noel here, as our technical guy, was saying to us, is one of the ways we do this with you as well, is if you find, for instance, that it doesn't make sense to go out to your place if it's not suitable or whatever, we can actually do a very limited number again of, if you send us in your situation and you want to discuss, we can discuss it here on some other morning for you and webcast it directly into your organisation. Give us the issues, give us the problems, and you can sit back and watch it there, safe from the knowledge that we're not going to be out there literally eating your rashers. Isn't that right, Frank? So there's two ways actually you can engage with this if you want, and that's because some people have asked us, and we've got a number of invitations. We're going to take up a couple of them for the breakfast thing to see if it works. From our perspective as well, in terms of getting business, and from their perspective in terms of getting some of their issues teased out around the table. So two ways: invite us out and we can have breakfast with you, or alternatively give us a call and we can set up something like we have here, going directly to you and to nobody else. So listen, thank you very much everybody for sitting in and viewing us today and watching us today. Next week we've got a very interesting perspective, slightly different to what we've been doing up to now, and that is based on the fact that there's a financial element to all of this, and we've got a very good guest coming in next week. We've got Tony McCarroll. Tony was an executive director of the Ulster Bank Group for a number of years, and he's on the board now of a number of PLCs and different companies as well. Very well versed in terms of how you go out at this stage and talk to banks. I know, not easy. How you communicate with banks, the sort of dynamic that goes on between the banks and organisations, the best way to put your case forward, how to deal with awkwardness with banks. I'm looking forward to this one myself.
how you get paid.
And the next one is, on the other side, how you get paid. And also facing up to your own financial realities internally, because certainly we've come across a situation, and I wouldn't be a financial expert, but people tell me, you know, that the first thing that people start, you know, they kind of deny what's happening financially, or they don't understand what's going on. So anyway, next week Tony is going to unravel all of that for us, so we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, have a good week, and slán go fóill.
So is it contrary to any law if I say he's a cattleman?
Race.
It would be racist.
Discrimination on the grounds of race. Kevin not mentioned in the act, no?
Should have been.
Yeah. Do you remember when you did the piece of work on